There is a reason military planners lose sleep over a single word: hypersonic. Not because the technology is new, not because missiles moving at extreme speeds are unprecedented, but because hypersonic weapons do something that traditional missile defense systems were never truly designed to handle. They move too fast, they maneuver unpredictably, and most importantly, they compress decision time. This week, Iran announced that it had successfully tested a new hypersonic missile, a weapon Iranian officials claim can penetrate every major missile defense system currently deployed by the United States and its allies. If that claim proves true, the implications are not limited to the Middle East. They extend to the entire architecture of modern military deterrence. Because missile defense systems are supposed to provide one critical guarantee: that if a missile is launched, it can be stopped. But what happens if it can't? The first thing to understand about Iran's hypersonic announcement is that it exists inside an information fog. Iranian military officials released statements describing a missile capable of traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 10. They described a weapon with high maneuverability, designed to evade radar tracking and intercept systems. They described a missile capable of bypassing advanced American defense platforms. But outside of those claims, the available information becomes far less clear. There are no independent confirmations yet of the missile's full capabilities. There are no publicly available flight data records. And there are no verified technical breakdowns that allow analysts to determine exactly what type of hypersonic system Iran may have tested, which means the global response to this announcement is not driven by certainty. It is driven by risk assessment. And in strategic planning, the difference between what is confirmed and what is possible is where the most consequential decisions are made. There are several things that defense analysts can say with relative confidence. First, Iran has spent years investing heavily in missile technology. The country's ballistic missile program is widely considered the most advanced in the Middle East. Second, Iran has repeatedly demonstrated the ability to develop increasingly sophisticated missile systems despite heavy sanctions. From medium-range ballistic missiles to cruise missiles and drone technology, Iran has built a military doctrine that emphasizes asymmetric deterrence, a strategy designed to offset conventional military disadvantages against larger powers. Third, hypersonic weapons have become one of the most significant arms development races in the world. The United States is developing them. Russia has already deployed versions. China has tested multiple systems. And now Iran claims to have joined that list. The significance of that claim lies in what hypersonic missiles actually do. Traditional ballistic missiles follow a relatively predictable trajectory. They launch. They travel into the upper atmosphere. They descend toward their target. Missile defense systems are designed around that predictability. Hypersonic missiles operate differently. They fly lower, they maneuver during flight, and they travel at speeds that dramatically reduce reaction time. For defenders, this creates a nightmare scenario, because interception becomes exponentially harder. But the most important questions remain unanswered. Does Iran actually possess a fully operational hypersonic weapon, or was the announcement primarily intended as strategic messaging? There are reasons analysts remain cautious. Developing a true hypersonic glide vehicle requires extremely advanced materials capable of withstanding enormous heat and pressure. Guidance systems must remain functional while traveling at extreme velocity, and maintaining control at those speeds requires engineering precision that only a handful of countries have demonstrated consistently. Which means the key question is not simply whether Iran tested something labeled hypersonic. The question is whether the system performs reliably enough to function as a real military asset. Because the difference between a prototype and a deployable weapon system can be enormous. But in strategic competition, perception can be almost as powerful as capability. Even the possibility that Iran has successfully developed a maneuverable hypersonic missile forces a reevaluation of regional security dynamics. Missile defense has long been a central pillar of U.S. military strategy in the Middle East. Systems such as Patriot batteries and other advanced radar networks exist specifically to protect bases, allies, and strategic infrastructure from missile attacks. These systems are designed around certain assumptions. Assumptions about detection time, assumptions about trajectory, assumptions about interception windows. Hypersonic weapons challenge those assumptions because they reduce warning time. And when warning time disappears, so does the margin for error. This is why the development of hypersonic weapons has become such a critical global issue. They introduce uncertainty into a system built around predictability. And uncertainty changes the calculations of every government involved. The geopolitical implications extend far beyond Iran itself. The United States has built a network of alliances across the Middle East designed to contain regional threats. Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, each relies heavily on American defense technology. But if a new generation of missiles can bypass those systems, the strategic equation begins to shift. Allies begin asking difficult questions. Can existing defenses protect critical infrastructure? Can air defense systems adapt quickly enough to counter emerging technologies? And perhaps, most importantly, How should deterrence evolve if traditional missile interception becomes less reliable? These questions do not immediately fracture alliances, but they introduce tension into long-standing security assumptions. And tensions inside alliances are exactly the kinds of vulnerabilities that rival powers watch closely. Iran's announcement may not simply be about demonstrating technology, it may also be about sending a strategic message. Hypersonic weapons are not just tools of war, they are tools of signaling. By announcing such a capability, Iran positions itself as a technological competitor in a domain previously dominated by major military powers. It tells adversaries that its missile program continues to evolve. It tells regional rivals that its deterrence capabilities may be expanding. And it tells the global community that sanctions and restrictions have not prevented technological progress in its defense sector. Whether those claims fully reflect reality remains to be seen. But the signaling effect itself has strategic value, because deterrence operates partly on belief. The most serious concern is not the missile itself. It is the possibility that hypersonic technology spreads. When one nation demonstrates a capability that changes the balance of defense and offense, other nations respond. They accelerate their own programs. They invest in new interception technologies. They explore countermeasures. The result is a technological cycle. Offense evolves, defense adapts, and then offense evolves again. Hypersonic weapons may represent the next major phase of that cycle, a phase where speed, maneuverability, and unpredictability define the battlefield in ways previous generations of defense systems were never designed to handle. And that leads to the question now facing military planners around the world. If hypersonic weapons continue to advance faster than the defenses designed to stop them, what happens to the fundamental assumption that missile attacks can be intercepted? Because for decades, missile defense has provided governments with a measure of reassurance, a belief that even if an adversary launches a strike, there remains a chance to stop it. But if that reassurance disappears, if speed and maneuverability begin to outpace detection and interception, then the balance between offense and defense shifts in ways the world has not fully experienced before. Iran's announcement may represent a technological milestone, or it may represent strategic messaging. But either way, it raises a question that defense planners everywhere are now forced to confront. Not whether hypersonic weapons exist, but whether the systems designed to stop them can keep up. And if they cannot, what comes next?